Then 3 wise men came from afar, guided by a heavenly star. Christ, the light of God, had descended, that receiving him all might be saved. Thus the promise of God was maintained. Thus all true souls were called to the light, that their darkness be lifted, that their hearts be made whole. When Mary's babe smiled, he conveyed truth and grace, that their darkness be lifted, that their hearts be made whole. When Mary's babe smiled, he conveyed truth and grace. Then 3 wise men came from afar, guided by a heavenly star. Then 3 wise men came from afar, guided by a heavenly star. Christ, the light of God, had descended. Christ, the light of God, had come, that receiving him, all might be saved, all might be saved. 3 wise men came, guided by a star, to do honor and welcome the Christ-born on earth. 3 wise men came, guided by a star, to do honor and welcome the Christ-born on earth. Where are you going, my little one? In hope these empty streets I wend. I see the star rise in the east, and I'm looking for a friend. Tooroo-loo-loo-loo-lay, tooroo-loo-loo-loo-lay. Where are you going, good shepherd folk? From a lonely valley we ascend. Our wondrous vision sent us here. We're looking for a friend. Tooroo-loo-loo-loo-lay, tooroo-loo-loo-loo-lay. You learned men, where are you going? Our soul's long journey we would end. Therefore we've come to Bethlehem. We're looking for a friend. Tooroo-loo-loo-loo-lay, tooroo-loo-loo-loo-lay. Good people, let me come with you. Perhaps he's just around this bend. But whether near or far, I too have been looking for a friend. Tooroo-loo-loo-loo-lay, tooroo-loo-loo-loo-lay. The crowd shines asleep, the silence is so the peace He brings can lift us on soul wings to soar in light and heaven perceive. Our pleasures and pains, our losses, our gains, have kept us long bound. The ropes of yearning hemmed us round. We dreamed of imposing on desert sand flower gardens of beauty, verdant waves of delight. Imagination visited our sight. The freedom we would know Christ offered long ago, and even from His love flows peace. All creatures here on earth, alive to their own worth, can welcome love and win their release. The Christ child's asleep, the silence is so deep that round about with hope in their eyes. The animals await, their breathing they abate. They know their time has come to arise. Thy light within us shining has shown where freedom lies. From earthly walls confining to soar in spirit skies. How oft like sheep we strayed apart, now guided by Thy ray. In inner freedom of the heart, our night has turned to day.
We have been talking so much about the life of Jesus Christ and its significance for us personally and generally throughout this season that I'm tempted not to go into it very deeply now, because this is really more of a family celebration. Even if you've come just for the first time today, there is a spiritual family here, and an openness, especially of heart, during this time. The season when the light is celebrated, starting with Deepavali and going through Christmas, is a time when we really feel our oneness. We feel an affirmation of peace, an affirmation of light on the darkest day of the year, which just happened. Of course, in Chennai, it's not so much darker than the longest day of the year. I think the whole difference between them is about an hour and a half. But if we lived up in Alaska, it's pretty dark. Sometimes in some parts it stays dark for 6 months. It's a long time. And so it's very interesting that cultures all over the world affirm light during this time. And so it's a very good thing to affirm. But just briefly, one of the reasons why, in fact the main reason why we honor Jesus Christ so particularly here at Ananda is because he, you could say, started this whole work. When Lahiri Mahashaya met Babaji in 1861 and became his disciple and was taught Kriya Yoga and started to spread it throughout the world, the thing that Babaji said to Lahiri Mahashaya was, Jesus Christ appeared to me and said, let us send a new teaching of meditation out into the world. Let it spread to the West. And of course from there it went all over the world. That's how Babaji put it. Now of course these great masters are avatars. They're all one with God. If we had to see them all together having a conversation, it would sound something like this. They know it all. They don't have to have conversations. It isn't like Jesus Christ said the world needs to meditate and Babaji says, Avadiya. It's all known to them. Babaji didn't have to say, Jesus appeared to me. He could have said, I appeared to myself. You see? But they have these dramas. They have these outer conversations for our benefit. Otherwise, there's nothing to write about. Autobiography of a Yogi, what would it say? Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, the end. Because there are no stories to tell, because all the masters are one in their consciousness. It isn't for their sake that they come to earth, that they send these teachings. It isn't as if Jesus, Krishna, and the great masters up in heaven are lonely and they come down on earth just to generate a fan club or something like that. It's that they come for our benefit. But this is how Babaji told it to his disciple, that Jesus Christ appeared to me and said, let us send this teaching, which Lahiri Mahashaya came to call Kriya Yoga, this particular technique. And so it's especially precious to us on this Christmas Day. We were trying to explain Christmas Day to someone because they only knew it as sort of a bank holiday. And so we said, it is Jesus Jayanti. Oh, okay. Makes sense. Easter is not only Jesus Samadhi, but it's actually Jesus Resurrection, which is very inspiring. But we'll get to that in about 4 months. So as having said that, as I said, I don't really want to speak in vast terms because the teaching is very particular. Though the great masters come to give a teaching to help the world, who is the world? It's just us. Who are all the people who were lived in Krishna's day? They're all gone, except they're reincarnated again and probably have been reincarnated a few times since then. And maybe, who knows? Maybe Yudhishthira is in third standard right now. We don't know. He may be free by now, but in any case, it's that people keep coming back. So who is the world? It's not a planet, it's not a nation, it's not a populace, and it's certainly not a statistic. It is individual souls seeking God. It's important to remember that though the avatars come for the general upliftment of the world, as we know it says in the Gita, they also come as gurus to their own disciples. And those disciples, yes, are certainly, you could say, chosen by them or have a past life connection. But really, that's true for anyone who opens their heart to God in this particular channel, in this particular way. And the gurus are loved by all. If you love your guru, you would naturally love all other gurus too. It doesn't mean you would follow all their teachings any more than if you love your mother and have respect for all other mothers, you would also go to their house also and say, Iposapada or whatever. You have your own mother and then you have your own relationship there. But still, it helps us to appreciate all. And so, we, at this time, have that, again, openness of heart. But it has to be personal, too. It doesn't have to be, but it helps us when it is. And so, to remember that the Masters have come for you. When Jesus appeared to Babaji, he was thinking about Balaguru Sami. He's saying, okay, he's coming, let's see, 2017, he'll be coming. We need to have a technique ready for him. There needs to be a center. He thinks very particularly about each one of you. Yoganandaji proved this in his life. When Swamiji was away somewhere and then had said something to somebody, and when Swamiji came back, there was no one else in that situation who could have told Master, including the people Swamiji was talking to. And Master said to him, by the way, when you're with worldly people, don't talk about miracles. That's what the conversation had been about. And Swamiji said, you knew. And Master said to him, I know every thought you think. And he proved that with all of his disciples. It wasn't just Swamiji. There was a man driving late at night. You all know the story, but for the 1 or 2 new people, sake I will tell it, and the rest of you will have to suffer through it again. That he was driving late at night. He was trying to get to see Master, but it was on the highway was empty, except finally he found one restaurant that was still open at midnight, but all they served was hamburgers. And so, of course, Master had taught the disciples to be vegetarian, but this disciple thought, well, he won't know. And so he had a few hamburgers, and then he went and reached the ashram and called Master, or Master called him or something, And Master had greeted him very lovingly and talked to him for a while, and then he said at the end, "By the way, James, when you're on the highway late at night and you find a restaurant that serves nothing but hamburgers, better not eat anything." It wasn't that there were hamburger spies, at the restaurant, Yogananda is having a second hamburger. It was not like that. There was no way for him to know. But he knew. One man he said to, "You have a sour taste in your mouth," Yoganandaji said to the man. The man said, "How could you know?" And Master said, "I'm as much in your body as I am in my own." That was how he was showing not only his consciousness, but God's consciousness. Why do we say in meditation, reveal thyself? What does it mean, reveal thyself? It means appear. It doesn't mean come. You notice it's not that Master guided us to meditate saying, call to Divine Mother to come. She's already here. What's the point in saying Vanga when she's already Inge? How do you say reveal or appear? Is there any word we can say? Show paninga. Reveal paninga. Okay, good. See, if you don't know, there's no way I know. So, reveal paninga. It's that way. It's show yourself. I know you're here, hidden. As Master said, God is throbbing in your own heart. He's the nearest of the near, the dearest of the dear. He's closer to you than the words with which you pray to Him. We know this, sure, intellectually. It's all made of vibration, it's all God, sure, but what do we feel? That's really our goal, is to feel and to experience for ourselves. And so the Masters have come just for you. Yes, for each of us, each of you, but you too. And it's very important to remember that. There is room at the table for you. And so there is a seat with your name on it. That's it. No one else can sit there. Jesus or Krishna or Master goes, no, your seat is over there. This one I'm saving for Bala. And so, I was saying that there had to be a center here ready. We are all been blessed by this center here, and we feel it particularly at a time now, at Christmas time. But there's Bala. I knew there was a seat saved for you. There you were. Okay, good. So, again, you all know the story, most of you, that Swamiji came to Chennai and he gave a talk at the Music Academy. 3,000 people came to it. Some of them are here, but very few of them are here compared to the 3,000. Yes, I agree. And so, but that was, and from that night Swamiji said we must have a center in Chennai. But it was instant that center was birthed in that evening. There had been energy building up to it, but that was the moment when it was born. And Swamiji did that for all of us. And so for people who wanted to learn to meditate, people who wanted to learn Kriya Yoga, that's one of the things that Ananda centers provide, is that classes in meditation generally, and classes in leading to Kriya Yoga and so on. And so it's wonderful that for those who want it, that is here now. A number of people, when they come to our introductory classes, say, I've discovered Kriya Yoga long ago, but I never knew there was a place in Chennai to learn it. And finally, I looked it up on Google, or someone told me, or someone said recently, I saw the hoardings that you have put up everywhere. and I was thinking, it was from Jyotish and Devi's big event, and we had one advantage that right after the posters were put up and right after the event it rained for a while. And so I guess the corporation people took their time in taking them down. So they were up for at least an extra week or two. Even though the event had passed, it still was saying, Kriya Yoga? Kriya Yoga Venuma? Anyone? And so it's wonderful that the center is here for that, but it's more than that too. When we first came, the people who were here, we were wondering, would they be interested in having a center? And we found in time, first of all, that they came at all. We weren't sure. On the first satsang, the first classes, would anybody come? We'll come for Swamiji, but otherwise, no thanks. And that had happened to Master even. 5,000 people at a lecture. The next day classes, 5. And so we didn't know, would that happen again? 3,000 people at the lecture? 3, maybe. We didn't know. It wasn't that. It was more than that. But then, even after people came once, would they come twice?
Yeah.
You know, that's also a good question. Were they interested? Did they like, coming together? One person, a dear friend who's not here, Sairam, said, before I was just in classes. I was coming forward to learn something and go. He said it was only after the center started that there was this feeling of belonging, this sense of being a part of something. And that's, of course, a feeling that we feel too. The Chennai Center was started just as much for the two of us as all of you, meaning we feel just as grateful to Swamiji for that evening. And so what I just wanted to close with is, among those people who have taken the classes, then those of you who have even taken Kriya, and most importantly, those of you who have shown the right spirit, it is a real joy for us to be here and celebrating at this time. It takes years to build up a momentum. It takes years to establish a clear sense of purpose, a clear sense of even self-definition. What are we here to do? I was speaking with a friend recently who was talking about new people coming to the spiritual path. He said, I have one criterion. I have to explain it because it doesn't make sense otherwise. He was accepting monks into the monastery. That's more of a sort of application process than we would ever have at the center. The criterion for being able to come to the center here is, do you want to come? If you want to come, please come. Sometimes even if you don't want to come, people end up coming. One person told me, I decided not to come, and something made me to come. I sat down on the couch, but then my feet started walking, and I had to go to the center. Many of you know this other story, but somebody recently in level 1 was saying, we go around the room and say, please tell us your name and how you came to hear about this class and what you would like to get out of today. And so this one person said, I read Autobiography of a Yogi 5 years ago. I finally found this place. I am here for Kriya Yoga and to find God. And so then we said, wonderful, nice to have you here. And the person next to her said, she's my friend. And I said, let's get coffee. And she said, great, meet me at CIT Nagar at 2 p.m. And so here I am. So at the break we gave her a coffee. So she did get coffee.
That's an LA accent.
Yeah. And so she said, I may go if I get bored. We said, it's fine. And so, but she stayed the whole time, and she seemed to enjoy herself. So we never know sometimes how we come. So it'll often be the case that two people will come and one will have been dragged by the other just as a bodyguard in case things get weird. And like a husband drags a wife here, I came because he said to come. And then sometimes the wife becomes more devoted than the husband. Meaning we just don't know. We can't judge things by the surface of our minds. That's true in meditation also. Just because of what's going on the surface of your mind. I had that experience the other day. I thought, this is no meditation at all. But I looked in the mirror after the meditation and I thought, the face appears more relaxed. Something must have happened during the meditation. I wasn't aware of it, but there's something, there. It'd be nice to be able to feel that, but it was the only proof I had, but it was something. We need to look for that. As Swami Kriyananda often said, if you are feeling more kindness in your heart, you can be sure your meditation is right and you are spiritually progressing. If you have great visions of all angels, but have no corresponding kindness or sense of warmth towards others, then your meditative experiences are suspect. It is how we behave in the world, how we behave towards others and towards ourselves that proves whether our meditation is working and whether we are growing. And it also disproves it too. As Yoganandaji's most advanced woman disciple said, our spiritual growth is tested in the cold light of day. She wasn't from Chennai, obviously. But you could say the boiling hot light of day. But the point is the light of day, the harsh light of day. Not sort of just with this in the hidden room, but how we are when surprised. As she said, to behave properly when it is inconvenient. That is the test. It's easy to behave properly when someone says, here is 1 check for 2 crores. Oh, thank you. Very good. Easy. But someone says, no, 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 no. You owe me 2 crores. Now, how is that reaction? So, as I said, those of you who have shown the right spirit, which is to say God's spirit, is a great inspiration to us. And so going back to my friend who was speaking of accepting monks in the monastery, he said, out of the criterion that I have for what makes someone ready to do this, he said there's only one, an intense desire to find God. And that is true here also. Why are we here? To find God. What does it mean to show the right spirit? It means to show an interest in finding God. And so for those of you who have shown that interest, we're very grateful. And it has been a real joy to celebrate this Christmas with you and with all of you. Thank you.
Oops, kicking my own flute. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
It's really a joy to see everyone in this room. Wow. Thinking back, we were talking earlier today about the Alwar Pet Center and how when the thought came, it's time to get a new center, there were all these fears. What will happen if not enough people come to the new center? What will we do? And then now it's, what's going to happen when too many people come to the center? What will we do? And it's definitely something that we'll have to adjust to, but, you know, the central core vibration that is here will never go away. And we have to not hold on to form, really. Things are ever changing in the world anyway. And we had the Alwar Pet form, then we had the form here when maybe the room was half full. Now we have a form where the room is full. But that's just the form. And what do we do in meditation? We close our eyes and we don't look at the form. We close our eyes and we feel the deep vibration of Master that is within us. We feel the deep vibration of God inside. And that is the core policy here. If you want to, Sampath knows a lot about policies, I'm sure, being a bank guy. Policy is really the unseen aspect going on here. And that is, no matter how many people come and go, the primary policy of feeling Master deeply within, of practicing Kriya Yoga and feeling the presence of God within, that is our core value here. And it doesn't matter how many people come or how many people go. You know, very often Master said, he was talking about Mount Washington at the time, which is one of the centers he established in the U.S., but he said it's like it has a revolving door. I was saying this the other day too. When I was a child, I don't know if did they have revolving doors here, like in the old days before you had the type doors. When I grew up, there were revolving doors in all the stores and things like that. And where did they ever come up with revolving doors? I don't know. That was an interesting invention to have. And so anyway, you know, as a kid, you know, you're really small and you're hoping you're not going to get squished by the door and you go in. But then a lot of people come out. And so he was talking about how people come in and come out. This is not an easy path. It's not easy to meditate for hours a day. And that is the other guiding policy is, you know, people come, but when they don't feel like meditating anymore, they vibrate themselves out, you know. It doesn't mean if you're having a difficult time in your meditation and you happen to be meditating less in the moment, that's not what I'm talking about. But not everyone who comes is finding their Satguru. Not everyone who comes is coming for the same reason. And so we have to have our hearts open to everyone who comes, and it becomes a form of service. Because those of us who are here permanently, it is our job to serve those who come and are just seeking a little drink of God that they are lacking in their lives. I mean, think of what Master and the Gurus do for us. We came here to Ananda, to meditation, starving. Our hearts were parched, our mouths were parched for God. We were being driven crazy in this world, thinking, where is the presence of God in me? Where is that? Where can I find it? And we search outwardly. Where do I find it? And then finally, you take a drink of the divine through meditation, and you take a drink of the divine through a true path that can truly take you to God. And you say, I found it. And then you think of all the other starving souls, and you think, how can I not welcome someone to come in just for a drink? Maybe they're just coming for a drink, and then they're going to pursue the true full cup elsewhere. Maybe they come here, they're here for a while. Maybe they come here and this is their new home. But in any case, how can we deny anybody that drink of the divine? You can't. And so that's why we have to just accept people who come for whatever reason they come. It's never going to become a fun social place where you can just come and hang out and, hey, in North India, the word is yar. Hey, yar. But I'm not sure what the South Indian. So it's like, dude. I'm just lower. I just come here to lower my energy and hang out with other people. It's never going to be that. It's never going to be just a social place either. We have social Christmas, but then it always comes back to meditation. It always comes back to that inner sense, that inner quench that we have to live our lives with. We would feel we were starving if we did not have meditation in our lives. And so we'll adjust. We will adjust to large crowds, small crowds, whatever happens, we will adjust. There's a possibility, who knows, maybe something on the roof will happen at some point. But Master is guiding this work. Master is guiding how this happens. We all just came here, and look what happened. Maybe there's been some good marketing or something, but that's not why people have come. That's not really why. There's a whole unseen influence happening here, and that is Master. This is Master's work. This is Swamiji's work. This is our Guru's work. It's theirs. And they're saying, I like the spirit. Let's bring a few more people in here and develop it. One of the other things I have to say about spiritual family is you're going to have some people who are less socially desirous. They just don't feel like being around people. And this is a path for being able to be quiet and silent in your own self and not having to be forced to talk to 50 people. You don't have to. You can always, if there's a crowd of people, you can always just come in the temple and meditate while the crowd has fun on themselves. But it's a very helpful thing also, though, is to develop relationships with others who are like-minded with you. Even in a big crowd, the more crowds we have, you will still find those who are more like-minded, those who love God as much as you, those who you have past lives with. You're going to still find those in a crowd. You're going to find those people, and they're going to be your closest spiritual family among the big crowd. And it's okay to find the people that you feel most attuned to. And then there's many circles within Ananda that happen. At Ananda Village, there's 300 Kriyabans that live there, 300. Not everybody is the closest friend of each other. I would say everyone gives respect and love to everybody, but not everyone feels the closest. And Master even said the reason why we feel close to certain people is from past lives. We were friends. And the reason why we may feel a little tension with others might be because we were enemies. Enemies can come together in an ashram and work it out, basically. You really figure out that it's not personal. You really figure out that, well, they have their issues, I have my issues, I'll work on my issues, you work on your issues, and then suddenly there's harmony. And it's no longer the whole enemy. He said, if there's someone who you kind of half feel good around and half not so great, then some of the times they might have been an enemy and another time they might have been a close friend or family member. He said sometimes families incarnate together and they were enemies and they have to work it out in close quarters. So if you're from one of those families where there's a lot of arguing, it might be that in the past life there was less harmony between you and God is saying you have to work it out inside. So there's all of these different things that happen within a large group, different dynamics, things like that. But we'll be guided. And most of all, we will be guided by that inner desire to feel the presence of God, that inner desire to share that presence of God and to serve each other. And it's very helpful when, though, you do seek friendship with each other. It creates a glue here that, if you know how to be, if you know how to relate to other humans. Some have just come from the cave, okay? Last lifetime, they lived in a cave. They're coming here. They're like, I remember one guy saying, why are we talking about community? I came here just to learn Kriya Yoga. Great, we have that too. But Ananda is also spiritual community. That's one of the differences we have from some other organizations, is there is spiritual community. And the reason why, and Master, this was an ideal of Master's that couldn't be realized in his life, is that by being a spiritual community, by learning to have harmony between each other, we rub off the hard edges of ourselves. If you think of us all as a little prickly, and the prickles are our karma, then as we kind of rub against each other, the little prickles come off, and suddenly we've had some spiritual progress come. And so that happens with spiritual community. People have arguments and then they resolve it. That happens also. People might just be harmonious and just feel the divine love. Another reason to have community is to learn how to love in a divine way, which is unconditionally, as opposed to you give me your love, then I'll give you my love, or vice versa, which happens a lot. So learning how to love in a divine way. These are all very useful that Yogananda Ji explained that these must happen. And then most of all, when we meditate as a group, that meditation can go deeper. And yes, those who have meditated longer are doing a service in many ways, because those who meditate not as deeply will meditate much more deeply, meditating around others who have meditated, who meditate deeply. It's a new center. People have only been on the path for 4 or 5 years, and so together we're actually getting deep together. And so yesterday it was very interesting to feel some of the restlessness in the room, and I felt I finally needed to say, you know what, it's okay to be restless. And after saying that, I could feel the energy just calm down. Because if you're feeling really restless, there's a lot of judgment, like, I shouldn't be feeling restless. here's my one chance once a year to meditate for 8 hours, and what's going on? And my mind is doing this, and I'm feeling this, and oh my God, you know. And so just to know that over time, you know, the restlessness naturally goes away in meditation. Over time. This is a long-term path. And the benefits that come after that restlessness goes away is so worth it. So worth it. But the other thing I like to say is that we can feel the presence of God now through our practices too. You don't have to be a super long-term meditator to have the sense and the feeling of the presence of God in your life now. And that also helps along the way. If we can learn how to feel that presence of God now, it helps us along the way. Then it's not someday I'll feel peace, someday I'll feel... No, you can feel that peace and joy now. And that peace and joy will take you through and allow you to go deeper and deeper in your meditation. And it's just all worth it. It is all worth it. So here we are, Christmas time, celebrating Yoganandaji's Christ consciousness things. Just a little while ago, we were celebrating Deepavali. It's Yoganandaji talked about the blending of the East and the West, and it's beautiful to actually, though, tune into basically Sanatana Dharma, as Swamiji was saying, that the underlying truth is what we're actually celebrating. And these occasions are reasons for us to get together and reasons for us to share divine love, reasons for us to share joy. You know, you can feel the joy in the air today. There's a lot of joy happening.